All right, I am live. I want to do a little RTD IG check-in and put out a question because I'm real curious to find out the responses, just based upon the fact I'm trying to really figure out how to bring about some real action steps or something to bring about a solution to what's currently going on. So how's everybody doing? I appreciate you taking time to join me, and I want to put a question out there that everybody's watching, and feel free to chime in the chat as to what you think the answer might be, or some answers, because there's no one answer. I think it's all opinion based, of course, but I want to put a question out there and see what everybody thinks. So the initial question is, as a result of all this rioting and looting, which started over a racially charged incident, or several of them, which led to a breaking point to where more people appear to be wanting to express their displeasure in the judicial system / law enforcement, you name, political system as well. As all this stuff continues to escalate, because I would imagine, as I mentioned last night, for those that had a chance to join us on the RTD Live Talk, took a lot of calls from people all across the country sharing their thoughts as to what they're seeing and what they believe this is all about. And of course, my stance on this is that this is just one domino out of many that's used as a divisive measurement to basically just destroy people's confidence in the system, as well as in each other. It's all divided to divide us. So this is definitely one of those things where it's just a tool they're using amongst many others. So that's why I really don't go too deep down the rabbit hole myself. But question I want to put out there. JP Meadows, yes, I am staying safe. I appreciate that, my friend. Outside of what the mainstream media is telling us and what we're seeing from video footage on social media, things are relatively bad. But my personal thoughts is that it's just the beginning as to where they're trying to steer this, because the orchestrating powers that be behind all this, they want a race war. They want it to where it's white versus black and all types of things like that, as opposed to we the people versus those that have hijacked our political and monetary system. But that's a whole other subject. But the question I want to put out there for you guys, let me know via chat. As all this unwinds, and probably this week, more looting, more rioting, protesting, we got a lot of paid individuals that's hijacked and infiltrated all types of movements. So right now, you really can't trust any of these movements. Black Lives Matters, Antifa, there's all an underlying agenda within them all. They've all been hijacked. And so with that, as a result of all this, what do we, as we the people, regardless of skin tone, what do we the people want to come about from all of this? And that's where I, having searched through all types of social media and just seeing the video footage that's being shared, I have yet to see one or two or three things that people have commented on as to how we can bring about true change. And so I'm curious to find out, where do we go with this? Like the looting and the rioting, that's going to continue. And as a result of that, President Trump is going to bring the military out. The military was already supposed to be rolled out as a part of their global agenda of how to prepare the system for as I could call it, a monetary restructuring. And so they're making it a race war in order to bring it out to the public eye. But yet we're a majority of the people have bit and bought into the bait trap that they've set. So I'm curious. I'm gonna start ranting. I'm curious to see via ideas out there in the chat, where do we go from here? What does change look like? And so people say, Mike, you can't have, we need segregation again. We need to have a certain portion for this race over here, this race over there. And I'm like, that's not going forward, that's going backwards. So there's so many different things out here. I'm trying to figure out exactly, because everybody screaming for leadership, lead us to what? It would be the ideal question, because we don't know really, we don't know where we're going until there's a chosen destination that's agreed upon by the majority, which happen to be those that are upset right now. So let me just check in. I appreciate you tuning in, and thanks for the waves. But it says only small businesses are being wrecked hard, eliminating competition. Very true. So the question I want to put there says everyone looks like they're being mass-minded controlled. 100%. And so here's something I think we all need to think about, because outside of different institutions and groups or whatnot having an ultimate agenda behind it, what's the one or two things that we want, that we the people, I'm not saying we as in any race or whatever, we the people, because we're all under the boot or the knee of the global monetary, the financiers of this current paradigm we're in. Everything is not about black, white, green, black, white, yellow. It's about green. Like the fact that, yeah, I'm gonna stop. But anyway, so I'm curious to find out. It says new financial system, judicial and economic system. I am Chizam. Okay, so that's very great. New financial, judicial and economic system. What does that look like? And so in this current moment, I think our biggest problem is that it's going to be hard, and it's, in my personal opinion, it's impossible to have what would be considered equality and justice in a fallen world. And so just this very sphere, this planet that we're on, it's already been hijacked. And this goes to the spiritual elements of things. So I'm going to stop it right there. And so a new financial system, new judicial, new economic system, based upon what standard would be the next question. Because once again, as of now, we've been conditioned to think that the smartest minds come from Ivy League schools, and the smartest minds are those that are labeled as experts because they have a PhD. But really, all those individuals, to me, have proven that they are more willing to focus on their career pathways and their careers and their own individual legacies than they are with actually getting down to the nitty-gritty of the truth. So it's going to be hard to rely upon information from these experts. So we need a new way of getting information to the people and getting people a chance to have options, because everything that's being presented to us right now has been given to us by the same people who stirring up and creating this race war in the midst of a monetary restructuring. And so Jay Brand said, it's obviously, in my opinion, some type of negative frequency that affects the certain people, causing them to act out like this. Negative frequency. I can go along with that. And so that negative frequency, for me, to make it simple for myself, I relate everything back to the spiritual elements of our existence. And so, me being a believer in Christ, I'll go down that route and just mentioning the tug of war between good and evil. The fact that this current paradigm we're in has already been hijacked by an ultimate enemy against the human race, and it has infiltrated every system that we have, and the ultimate system, which makes this a topic that I really think we should touch on, is because people are out in the streets protesting, rallying, and hollering and screaming, good and bad, but yet no desired end in mind. They use two words: I want justice for this particular death, this death, and then I want to be considered equal with this race. But yet, what does that look like? We've never known equality. We've never known justice. It's always been this way, and that's the result of a falling world. Yeah, anyway, so I'm curious. I want to get on here because I want to throw out a question, because this is something that I haven't seen anyone talk about, is once all this is done, when all the people are when the movements slow down, we're distracted by something else, the next flag. And so for those, as I mentioned, definitely tonight, especially check in with me tonight on RTD Live Talk. I want to hear from you guys via the phone lines, but I threw out last night the fact that this is a greater agenda. Unfortunately, there's casualties of war, and so George Floyd happened to be one casualty amongst many other people that are, by the people that are orchestrating all this, it's more than tolerable for them to do that. So it's not one of the things where they're even, the people who are sitting back in the boardrooms watching all of us make a damn fool of ourselves in the streets, they're laughing at this because this is a part of a bigger agenda of theirs. And so I'm really thinking about, the Blackout Tuesday. So turn on Facebook and looking at everything, and everybody's blacked out. I'm thinking like blacked out, like no matter what, you're still on their platform. You're still on a platform that uses your data as a way to market and sell back to you so that you can participate. So posting a blackout picture with a hashtag this, you're still in their system. So it's, I understand the idea of showing your camaraderie as being a part of this, but yet once again, as long as we're in their system, utilizing their tools, we're in their agenda. So I don't know, yeah, but we got to start talking about this. And I believe this is something that, once again, outside of, you have some radicalists over here, some radical people over here, you got these people over here telling us what we should do, but yet, what does it look like at the end? So that's what I want to know. I want a final outcome, and that's what I want to talk about. So please, let me know. Pure Energy from the D. How you doing, my friend? Appreciate you for tuning in. That's what I need. I need a final outcome of what this looks like based upon all the energy, effort, sweat, blood that's being spilt. Like, we have to have something a little bit better than going out there, marching under a hot sun, expressing our displeasure. But once again, the people who are orchestrating and overseeing this, they're sitting in boardrooms, they're sitting in bunkers with, remotes, watching and laughing. Yeah, anyway, I'll get her. It says her name is Life. It says, I heard the Federal Reserve wants a bailout. Have you heard about that? The Federal Reserve, I haven't heard anything about that, but I don't think the Federal Reserve needs a bailout, given the fact that they are the overseers of the entire monetary system for this planet. And so based upon their initial response, based upon the past 90 days, they've admitted that they haven't even really began to do much of what they're capable of. So the Federal Reserve is in good standing, because as of now, the world needs Federal Reserve notes. So they don't need a bailout right now, especially. Yes, it says negative thoughts are being projected in our minds and souls by technology and spiritual attacks. 100% true. I do agree with that. And so I see negative thoughts, negative energy. I see spiritual attacks, definitely. And at the core essence of all of this, in my personal opinion, is the fact that we've always been in a spiritual warfare between good and bad. And of course, for those that are, even if you're not a believer, everyone knows that there's good and bad. There's a core, when you see something, when you see something that's just clearly not right, that at the essence of that person is either, they have some characteristics. They're either greedy, they're all types of other very unfortunate characteristics they may have, which is a part of that evil spiritual core essence that has hijacked humanity. And so, yeah, you are radiating a position, prostration power. Yeah, thanks. First thing that must be done is that reprogramming of the people. If that's not achievable, we should prepare for the coming of the Most High. Reprogramming of the people. Very true. And here's a next thing on top of that is, the reprogramming, and more so the renewing of our mind according to what source, according to what information, because everybody has their version of truth, but yet on my end, there's only one version of truth, and the core essence of that truth, when it boils down to what it boils down to, is love. But yet love, the word love right now, it's a remedy for the world's pains, but yet there's a lot of more things we're going to have to incorporate on that as well. But yet the reprogramming, I say the renewing of our mind. So I like where you're going with that. Now, where do we get that from? How do we begin putting dosages of that out there without an agenda, without anything sprinkled on top or filtered in there? Make it pure, like pure information that can renew people's minds. That's a great approach, because what we're being conditioned to see right now is all the negative things. And it's good to have reality shown to us of what people is actually doing. So there's so much taintedness behind this current event that we're experiencing. I see police officers putting bricks, so I can go on with what we are seeing. But how do we counter that? What's the final solution to all this? What are people marching for? What do you want to see? So that's a better question. What do you want to see as a viewer of this right now? What do you want to see as a final outcome from all the energy being put forth by we the people? That's what I want to talk about. And that's what I might end up having to touch on tonight on the show, as well as from here on out, we got to get down to some things we can actually do. So what time EST you going live tonight on your YouTube? So JP Meadows, tonight I'm on 9:30 p.m. I'm going to put up a early update reminder. Definitely call in. Definitely share your thoughts. Let's talk actionable steps, solutions, and what we're looking for as a final outcome. Because I want, this is where it comes in handy to be able to reach out to a few people and get thoughts. Collectively putting our thoughts together and talking like this about a final solution, a final outcome. It'll make it easier for us to be able to strategize on how we're really going to approach this continuously, because right now the weather's good, so people are marching, but all these movements, you got all these groups. There's so many groups out there. The predominant one is Black Lives Matter. And me personally, I've never attended a march, just because me thinking beyond the obvious is that you can march all day long. You'll rattle the surface, but we won't get change. Like, what does change look like? What's the final outcome? So yeah, I don't know. I can go on and on. I can ramble forever if you guys don't know. It says, let me see here. Absolutely right. You are. It says, be in the world, but not of it. Oh my goodness. So that's another thing. I like the fact you bring up a little scripture that we are in the world, but we're not supposed to be of it. And that's one of the things where I love the idea of, what would Christ do type of thing. And so that right there is one of the things I remember years ago. That was a cliche that everybody wore the wristbands, WWJD, I think it was. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, is love, loving your enemies. Like, we are in a spiritual warfare. Our enemies happen to be those that influence the minds of law enforcement, those that influence the minds of those that in the financial realm. Walking in love with them, but also realizing that, and then that's me going down to, in Matthew when it talks about the importance of seeking first the kingdom of God. Like right now, so many people emotionally destroyed, is distraught, being reminded of what Scripture says, if you're a believer, of putting the kingdom of God first, because that is the ultimate government. And that's where I think at the end of the day, there's only one answer, and it happens to be through something that's not too popular now, which I think needs to be preached more. We need some good news. We need some real good news. And I called out my pastors a while ago on this, because it starts with those who have the greatest influence in this country, and it's the people that sit at the pulpits and share the good news on Sundays, or supposed to share the good news on Saturdays and Sundays. But yet, once again, they're not MIA, but they're taking a different route. Let me see. It says, and as stated, the people believe their orders need to be made and come from folks of heavy prestige institutions, right? And so that's where, if people, and this is where the racial issues that has been a part of this planet is centuries, is eons old. And so when it comes to the racial back and forth that we're experiencing now, black versus white happens to be the prevailing races that are being mentioned now, because of a white officer and a black, and several black individuals that have died. But yet, race is that's what's being used against us. Race is being used against us right now, and we are biting the bait, because that gives us something to in common, like the racial issue. So like right now, I remember, and on top of this, all of this right now happens to be politically charged. On top of that, you have the left-right paradigm of this guy's good, this guy's bad. Anyway, boss of Bitcoin, how you doing, my man? I'm out there, man, trying to better understand, what does all this protest, what does all this what does this look like? What's the final solution for this? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because logged on initially because I woke up and saw all the blackout stuff early this morning. I'm thinking like, whoa, like what's blacking out? Like, we're still using a system provided by the individuals that still profit off of this, whether you black out or not. They're still getting their paper. And so it says, we as black and African American need to correct our status in their system. Okay, I can dig with that. Let's talk about what that looks like. How does that play out? And what are some things that we can do individually and collectively because it starts with each and every one of us. And as was mentioned earlier, renewing our minds and thinking for ourselves outside of what they are, portraying in front of us, in form of all these events and these messages that we're being told, subliminal messages, might I add, that they're sowing seeds in our mind and our hearts of hatred and evil right now. And once again, majority bites into it because of the struggle and grind and the economic inequality side of things. So there's inequality in every realm we face. So the question is, how do you what does justice and equality look like in a fallen world? Boss Bitcoin says IMF is over the Federal Reserve. IMF is like the Iron Bank from Game of Thrones. They will be the face of the global monetary system after the dollar officially falls. No doubt. I do agree. I do believe that there's an agenda behind that. And of course, everything we're experiencing now, as you know, is a result of their further moving us in that direction. And it goes towards the one world aspect. We're playing right into their hands of giving them a reason to bring down the military troops, to further spread the idea of hatred amongst law enforcement and the people, which makes those that don't see this as a booby trap, it makes them look like they are willing participants in something that is already set up against us individually. Reprogramming yourself first. I do agree with that. Switzerland runs the world from behind the scenes, which is why they have never involved in a war. Yeah. Jesus said his sheep will know his voice. I do agree with that one. As long as the electromagnetic control grid is up, we can be jacked very quickly by an AI, which is our neural data. Okay. It's going deep there on the technical side. It says we all need to look at the definition of American in the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary. Start there. All right. In the meantime, do me a favor. Throw that definition up in here for us. That give us something to chew on. So quasi-demonic possession of sorts, but technological. The sad part is you prepare a countermeasure during the crisis. You have to have prepared months, years in advance. And so once again, we're throwing the word prepared, being prepared for, that's the, how do you prepare? And there's no way of preparing entirely. There's taking practical steps based upon the information you have on what you're projecting might come. But being fully prepared is it's one of the things where I never fully grasped that. You have all the practical things you can do on the natural side. Get your finances, get your gold, silver, get all the things you need from a financial standpoint. Get your food, water, shelter, guns, bullets, stuff, whatever. On the safety side, and the food, canned foods, And then over here, health-wise, make sure you in the best shape of yourself. Physically protect your temple. Okay, that's prep. So, yeah. What else? Can't prepare. Blackout needs to mean all melanated people choose not to participate in their economy. Okay. The boss. So here we go. Okay. The blackout. So, okay, blackout. Not participate in their economy. Okay. So that can lead to a great discussion on what does that mean to not participate in their economy. And so I'm just looking at the U.S. debt clock right now. And the U.S. debt clock, according to information given to us, as long as we are under this current monetary paradigm and everything is denominated in the currency that we, the people, use on a daily basis, and as a way of reassuring that we continue to use that currency, we're going to always face taxation. And then on top of the taxation is they're able to further expand the monetary supply based upon the fact that they issue it, the government's debt, in the same currency. And we've all been conditioned with the idea of investing in the very same currency that's being hyperinflated away right now into portfolios that are deemed as retirement vehicles, that because at the end of the day, everybody wants to enjoy the fruits of their labor, live comfortably, chase some dream, whether it's the American dream, whatever dream you have, and that dream is denominated in our currency if you're in the U.S. So how do we not participate in their system when you can guarantee two things that will always, at this current moment, remain the same, which is you're going to pay your taxes, and you're going to, majority of people will ultimately invest in the same vehicles that they've given us to keep the currency in the system so that the banking sector, financial sector can profit off of it. And so that's where, I was trying to think, like right now, the debt that's on our back, the people, non-taxpayer, $78,000 per head. So every child born comes in on something. They're going to get that as long as you're a citizen of this country and you got a Social Security account. And all the tax-paying citizens have $207,000 on their head. Now we need to talk about how we unwind ourselves from that system. And then I think we can really dive deeper into what that looks like down the line. So, but yeah, I don't know. So the definition, it says, what I mean by people preparing is preparing yourself spiritually first. Hands down. Hands down. Okay, so the definition originally applied to the Aboriginals, the copper-colored tribes found on the American continent by the European, now applies to the European born in America. So that's the definition according to 1828 Webster Dictionary on what it means to be an American. Okay, thank you for throwing that in here. I appreciate it. So they're feeding on our souls and the negativity. Right, so how do we bring positivity and some spiritual truth in the form of, let's start with the words love. But once again, this goes back to that, turn the other cheek. At what point do you not turn the cheek when it's the racial warfare that we're up against? It's rooted in spiritual demonic forces. Only a pure evil demonic person would be willing to intentionally beat, slay another human being and create it in the same likeness and image of his own creator. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the evilest of evils, first of all. But most people don't realize that in the midst of that. How do we get back to these, as I started off saying, the final solution for the energies that we are all putting forth in addressing these matters? That's what I want to get to until we can all come together and to agree upon what this all looks like at the end. I think the energy that's being demonstrated out there on the streets, the positive energy, of course, and people standing up and kneeling for their voice to be heard, will fall on deaf ears, because no matter what, even if President Trump or whoever the next president comes in office might be, they're always going to do the same thing they've always done. They tell you what you want to hear. They pass a piece of legislation that gives you or us, the people, the sense of accomplishment. And it usually comes with, they'll provide some type of welfare or some type of incentive monetarily that shuts us up. Then life goes on back to normal. So, there's not going to be any change as a result of all this, is basically what I'm getting at. I believe we can expect more of the same, but while we're doing that, we're playing into their agenda of boots on the ground, dividing us even further. And I think the ultimate goal of those that are orchestrating this event is an all-out bloodshed warfare between people of different skin tones. And that's where I think people don't see through that right now. And that's why I think we need to start talking about, what the final outcome is, because all those movements, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they've all been hijacked and infiltrated by people that are out for their wrong agenda. And by being out there in protest with those individuals, we fall to be victimized because of an evil and corrupt agenda. And so, here's something to think about. And then let's talk about this further on here and throughout the day, and throw this out there to your family and friends. What does a final solution to your efforts look like? What are you hoping to accomplish? What does justice and equality mean in a fallen world? And so, yeah. It says, unfortunately, most of these people are emotional. They don't think with logic. They react rather than respond. Jay Brand, 100%. Emotion right now, anger. And a lot of that is being stirred up by social media. And so, once again, because of this system, like this platform I'm using is a free service to me, therefore, the algorithms or whatever that oversees this, they're going to automatically, more than likely, Facebook, IG, Twitter, they're going to push to the top the things that the algorithm was programmed to do, which was ultimately to divide. And so they're going to keep the emotions stirred up. They're going to keep people. They're going to keep reminding us of all the atrocities that's happening out there between the white and black race for now, and they're going to continue to just stir up negative emotions. And so, a blackout, if you really want to be upfront and honest, a blackout would be to get rid of these programs and use alternative programs that they're out there. And so, once again, you get rid of Twitter, IG, Facebook, and some other things I could throw out there. I think that the response out in the streets would probably be a little bit different, which would then probably uproot some of the original plans behind this current event and this season. Because if you look at all the information based upon the law enforcement, how they responded with Mr. George Floyd and everybody else has lost their life, it's all been deliberate acts against a different race and then caught on tape from many different angles to put out there to piss off a lot of people. And so now, even amongst my own family and whatnot, the division is starting to spur itself up again on just, political ideology, spiritual ideology, as well as just the overall agenda that's being given to us. So I think they're winning again. They're winning, and we don't even realize they're winning. And that's why we need some final solutions out here. And so it says, renounce the benefits and so-called privileges. Define your own nationality and not accept their labeling, classification of who you are, Negro, Black, Colored, African-American, reference the, self-identity, fighting a war without God, and expecting any changes is a losing battle. 100%. God is regeneration. The absence of God is, man. So I'm about to dial back. But yet, I think I presented a pretty good. So I think for those that have jumped on later, Mike just came in. The initial question, what sparked this, is that people are putting forth a lot of energy and effort right now, both with their fingertips and in the creation of content in general, to address a eons old, millennial old issue of racial inequality. And they're screaming, we want justice. What does justice look like in a world that's only known division, in a world that's only known war and all types of evil? Because my initial point was there can never be equality or, i.e. justice, in a fallen world. So, something worth talking about. It says the absence of God. All right, so with that being the case, I'm going to dial back. Establish your own government and work with those who want to work with you. Okay, so those are ideas, but we have to get these into a group consensus of what we think can all be done, and then one by one begin trying to echo that message and make sure it's in the best interest of everybody, regardless of skin tone, regardless of race and religion and things like that. I think. Let's pick up where we left off tonight. Very will do. All right, so about to dial back. I want to put that out there early, ahead of time, 9:30 p.m. tonight. If you're new or have not, rethinkingthedollar.com or Rethinking the Dollar YouTube channel. Call me tonight. It's a call-in talk show. I need to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Bring some solutions, bring some steps, and let's talk about it. Let's formulate a game plan because we got people on the streets screaming equality and justice, but we never had that. So not sure what that looks like. Anyway, I'm done ranting. Tonight, 9:30 p.m., RTD, Rethinking the Dollar. Let's talk. Peace.